The Toronto Blue Jays are set to get back Bo Bichette before the end of the season, and we didn't really think that was going to be a possibility. Now, we know that he's dealt with multiple calf issues. He's gone on the injured list three separate times this year, but can he regain some of his value? Can he show the world that he is one of the more consistent contact hitters in the game yet again? Well, the Blue Jays are probably going to give him the chance to do so from now until the end of the season. So we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as a very promising prospect, Jake Bloss, one of the returns, the headliner for the Yusei Kikuchi trade that the Blue Jays made with the Houston Astros. He might come up sooner rather than later. So we'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And Bo Bichette and Jake Bloss have been two names that we've been hearing a lot about lately, and for very different reasons. Jake Bloss has been dominating AAA ball, and he has had a cup of coffee with the Houston Astros, but there's a wide regard around him that he isn't quite ready to take that leap to the major leagues. At least we didn't think so coming in to when the trade was executed, but that may be different. And on the Bo Bichette front, I mean, there's been numerous trade talks surrounding him. The Blue Jays are said to really have opened up the market once the offseason rolls around, and a chance for him to regain some of that value and get to the destination that he truly wants to be in once the offseason rolls around may give himself that chance if he comes back and plays like Bo Bichette has played in the past half decade for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, a lot to go over today. Like you mentioned, a Bo Bichette update and a very interesting Jake Bloss update. Before we do, if you're part of the percentage try and subscribe, make sure to hit that button. It would mean the world to Peter and myself. But Peter, let's just dive right into it. So we got some very valuable insight on Bo Bichette here. And the Blue Jays shortstop, his rehab is going well. He is on track to rejoin the team soon. And with about 31 games left in the regular season, you mentioned the trade value. That's, if all the reports are accurate about the Jays shopping Bo Bichette, that's what this is going to at least partially be for, depending if they keep him in the next season. Here's the update. So Bo Bichette is continuing to build up and remains on track to join the Blue Jays in Boston on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, to complete his rehab. If he passes some base running tests in Boston, Bichette could get out on a rehab assignment as soon as next weekend. He started running yesterday. This article this was from a couple days ago. So he started running a couple days ago down in Florida, and will just continue to ramp that up this week into the weekend. He's going to meet us in Boston today and continue to ramp up with us, and hopefully it goes well and he'll get on his rehab assignment. So Peter, he's progressing pretty fast. I think there was a time there a month or so ago where we didn't even know if he was going to play for the Toronto Blue Jays this season. They were probably just going to sit him out. He's not having a good year anyway. But with the way the team is kind of going now, and depending how they shift their focus, whether it's to trade Bo Bichette, obviously they're playing the young guys. They're actually winning a lot of games now, which is good. It's obviously great to see. They played doubleheader today. But they want to get Bo out there to, again, whether it's build up his value, just see what they have in the player and make sure that he's still healthy. Really is kind of the goal here, because injured Bo Bichette is the worst possible case with him heading into the last year of his contract next season.
Yeah, that is the worst case scenario. And these last few games that he might play in is all about upping his trade value. And I still don't think his value has tanked as much as some people may tend to think. Like he still has been one of the more consistent contact hitters in the game over the past half decade. And teams know that. And not having to commit 300 plus million dollars to him to get him on your team, I think that's an asset in itself. And when he's motivated, when he's playing in the right situation, surrounded by a good group of guys, we've seen how effective he can be. So teams are looking at that, and they're licking their chops at the possibility of having Bo Bichette for 1 year to maybe try to chase a World Series. Now, the Blue Jays, they want to get him to up his value just so they can squeeze the most possible assets in a trade back for him. Now, I still think they're going to look to trade him. I
Yeah.
still think they're going to look to be competitive in 2025, and both of those things can go hand in hand. Like, you can get a couple of major league ready guys for Bo, maybe that they don't fit the timeline of the team that he's going to be going to, but they fit your timeline. And the most important thing is to get him through this season in one piece and healthy. You don't want him to have a lengthy rehab during the offseason, because then that's when his value starts to tank a little bit, and that's when you may not be able to get the most possible return for him. So I'd like to see him back just for the pure sense of him going to the destination that he wants to be in, because he clearly doesn't want to be in Toronto. He's made that clear. He said he wouldn't be shocked if he were traded, and apparently there was some trade chatter surrounding him before that injury ultimately shut him down through the deadline. So it could have happened as soon as this year. I do expect it to happen fairly certainly once the offseason comes around. And, you know, that's it. That's it. He just doesn't want to be here and he wants to go somewhere else, which is fine. I think the Blue Jays are going to do right by him. He's been a lengthy servant for the Jays in his tenure here, and they're going to try to find him a destination where the trade works out for both teams. And I think that they will do that, but you need to get him back on the field and show other teams that he is healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, and whether I mean that could change between now and next, season starting, but I think his time in Toronto is probably coming to an end. That being said, we do know they want to compete next season, and if they decide to do that, Bo Bichette would, in theory, give them the best chance. But again, the biggest kind of talk point for the offseason, again, only have 30 games left, so now we're enjoying the young guys, but it's kind of the calm before the storm here because there's a lot to go over once the offseason commences. But let us know what your thoughts are on the Bo Bichette update front here. But Peter, I want to discuss this bottom tweet from Ben Nicholson Smith where it says the Jays might have their starters go on 4 days rest for the rest, or only once more this year, but otherwise they'll look to add extra rest days wherever possible. Off days will help on that front, as well as extra pitchers such as, of course, Ryan Yarbrough, Jake Bloss, and perhaps Paulo Espino, maybe a 6-man rotation for a bit. Focusing on Jake Bloss here, we know Aaron Zwelling came out a week ago and basically said he is fully expecting Jake Bloss to play for the Toronto Blue Jays some point in September. You have Ben Nicholson Smith just a couple days ago saying that Jake Bloss is factoring into their 6-man rotation going forward. We know he's been dominant in AAA so far. His last outing, 3 innings, 2 hits, struck out 3, to look good, and has looked very, very good overall. This is very interesting to me. I would love to see Jake Bloss pitch this season if he is ready to do that. I do think he gets at least one more start in Buffalo. That's what John Schneider came out and said. But after this next start in Buffalo, which I believe is tomorrow, so because 5 days from his last start, he could factor into the next Toronto Blue Jays starting pitching staff equation. I would love to see it. The games are super fun to watch right now. And throwing one of our top prospects in there, have all 3 guys from the Yusei Kikuchi trade up with the Blue Jays this year would be quite the outcome from that trade.
Yeah, it's been a very good trade for both teams involved, to put it quite frankly. I mean, Kikuchi has been great with the Astros. He's been everything that they could have hoped for, maybe even more so. Like, he's been better as an Astro than he was this year as a Toronto Blue Jay, at least towards the end of his Blue Jay tenure there, heading into the deadline. So the trade has worked out fantastically for both teams. The Astros are first place. They're going to cakewalk their way to another division title and maybe even represent the American League yet again in a World Series. I don't want that to happen, but that's the trend that we're seeing lately with them, and they look like one of the best teams in baseball, and Kikuchi has helped out with that. But the 3 guys that they've gotten return for him, Joey Loperfido has really turned a corner, and he seems to be a very important piece of the Blue Jays puzzle going forward. Like, his power numbers have been off the charts lately. His defense in left field has looked really good, and he's a true 5-tool player. Maybe the contact is not where the Blue Jays want it to be. Still strikes out at a fairly decent clip, right? But still, I mean, you take the good with the bad when a guy is slugging the ball out of the ballpark and hitting doubles and triples and drawing walks. So I've loved what I've seen out of him. Will Wagner had a very hot start, has tailed off a little bit, but the bat to ball skills are still there. And Jake Bloss, who was the headliner of this trade, I mean, he's been dominant in AAA. Still, the command leaves a little bit to be desired. Only 35 strikes in his 65 pitches in his last outing. But I mean, has he given up a run?
No,
Like,
I don't think so.
yeah, he hasn't given up a run. So he's been pretty dominant in his limited stretch with the Bisons. And even though his MLB ETA says 2026, I do expect him to see some major league time this year in September as a September call up, and maybe he won't get too much runway in terms of going 5-6 innings in a matchup, but he'll get his chance to prove why he should be in the rotation or a part of the pitching staff next year for the Blue Jays in 2025. And he's had a pretty good start to his Blue Jay career, even though it is against minor leaguers. He's really progressing well, and I do expect to see him as well. It's going to be fun. Like you said, Nick, the games have been fun lately, and we're seeing all of these young guys that are hungry and want to get better and grow together as a unit, and they're doing that. They have the best record since the turn of the calendar there in June 25th.
Yeah, it's
And
28 and 25 now as well.
28 and 25. So they're getting better, and they're becoming a team, something that we didn't see at the start of the season, and they look good and it's fun. It's fun to watch all of these guys progress together. And I think that's the one silver lining that we could take out of this season. I don't think the playoffs are going to happen, even though they're closer than they have been in a while here. But still, Nick, it's fun. And let's take advantage of these opportunities because we're going to miss baseball once it's gone.
Yeah, only 30 or so games left. And then all the trade talk is going to start picking up about what's next for the Blue Jays. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. And do you want to see Jake Bloss as a Toronto Blue Jay this year? Let us know. We'll see you soon.